Awesome. So welcome to the Earp-a-Forward Earp Your Community panel. Thank you for coming. Obviously, we've already invited you to get donuts, but please, they're like 100. So feel free to take some more. If you're feeling peckish at any point during the panel, come on up, just grab a donut. There's gluten-free, there's standard nut-free, and then there's also vegan, but that's been actually fried in the standard fryer, so if you're opposed to that, just to let you know. For those of you guys who were at our previous panels, first of all, thank you for coming again. We really appreciate it. This is going to be a little bit of the same and a little bit different. Before we actually introduce ourselves, I wanted to start off with an audience question. So who inspires you? Take a moment to think about that. For me, I'm very lucky to be sitting next to 4 people who inspire me on the daily. They are not only kind Earpers, but they're also really awesome human beings who strive to make the world a better place. I'm really excited and honored to be here. And my name is Maggie, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm your moderator.
My name is Kristen. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the founder of Earp-a-Forward and partner on Earp-a-Forward and manager of Earp Your Community. That was a lot.
My name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her. I started Earp Your Community with Kristen, and now we're partners on Earp-a-Forward, and I also run the Bay Hot Earp Your Community group. Yeah.
And Sarah actually answered her hardest question right now.
I did?
You did. Remember the pronouns from last time?
Oh, yeah, I messed them up last time for my own pronouns.
So,
Okay.
hardest question is done. Next.
Hi, my name's Haley. My pronouns are she, her, and I am one of the volunteers with the LA Earpers.
Woo!
LA represent. My name is Kathleen. My pronouns are she, her. Am I representing all of Canada right now? I think I am.
Might as well, yeah.
So no pressure. I'm representing all of Canada. And we'll see. Canadian?
I wish I was.
Welcome.
Yeah. You're
Up
honored.
front. Thank
There
you.
you go.
So I'm here for the
That means you
nation.
have to take an extra donut.
Okay.
Actually, does anyone on the panel want a donut right now? Because Jill can grab you one.
I'm good right now. Thank you.
Good stuff.
All right. So before I start asking questions of the panelists, we will have a moment at the end to have you guys ask questions of them. We know that asking questions takes courage, so we always want to reward your bravery. We have some really awesome swag. And I'm sorry I keep going in and out with the mic, but volunteering is definitely the sexiest. So when you ask your question, you'll grab a...
Thanks for the
I'm
price of one.
two-fisting it. That's awesome. Sorry. I'm not even drinking, I swear. But we have some really awesome swag, so come on up and ask a question at the end. Is that better or worse, guys? Worse. Okay. We'll work on it. I volunteered this morning, so I've completely lost my voice. I'll do my best to project. So we're going to start with a question for everyone. What inspires you to volunteer?
Doing this panel is like very scary, but as Waverly says, sometimes you have to do what scares you. So I'm just gonna take a leap and be like super vulnerable. I have like a processing disorder that affects the way I kind of organize information and thoughts, and sometimes I stumble on my words, lose my train of thought, and it kind of sucks feeling lost in your head. So kind of why I'm reading off a piece of paper, but it helps me organize and whatnot. So I felt lost in my own life growing up, and I was shy and I was awkward and I didn't feel like I fit in. But it was teachers that kind of supported me along the way with their encouragement, and it was really nice to have someone that cared. So on a bad day, like that made all the difference. And these acts of kindness like add up. So there's like several people that I can thank for helping me hang on when I was pretty much close to letting go. So these transformative moments of encouragement and support made me realize how much I wanted to help people, and it's why I help people. I want to be there for someone that's struggling, to let people know they're not alone, because we're all really awesome people, and even when we struggle. So that is why I volunteer, and that's kind of like my inspiration.
So my earliest earliest memories are actually volunteering with my grandfather and my grandmother. We would go to a community center and serve breakfast to senior citizens. And my grandfather was my favorite person in the entire world. And he died when I was relatively young, and he's still my favorite person in the world. So part of what inspired me was this kind of drive to just be somebody that he'd be proud of, and to sort of keep that relationship alive, to keep a connection to him. But also, around a little before he died, I finished treatment for leukemia. So I had cancer as a kid, and as a kid, when I was going through it, I couldn't really process it. But once it was complete and I had a chance to breathe, I started to sort of think about what I had gone through, and something I internalized really quickly, but I don't think I could articulate until later, was that I sort of realized that my natural lifespan was meant to kind of end at 9. And I know that sounds like a super downer, but I got this gift of time. Literally got a gift from doctors and got a gift from, science and all of that. And it just became really important to me to use that time in a way that mattered. I wouldn't be here to matter in the world. I can't have an impact in the world. I wouldn't even be here had it not been for doctors. And so I just wanted to make sure I was doing something that left a positive mark, even in a small way. And that led me to also working in politics, which was great. I learned about community collective action and what it means for a community to fight for something that they want, but it burnt me out. And so for a couple years, I totally withdrew from any kind of community service until I found the Earpers. And then the Earpers kind of reminded me why all of that was important. So when I was younger, it was my past and it was my grandfather that were inspiring me. Today, it's you guys. It's the people that I meet, and they hear what they're passionate about and I hear what they fight for. And it just reminded me that I still want to do that.
Yes. Like Sarah, I did start volunteering when I was really young. I would go to all types of events with my parents, usually holiday ones, to go, to nursing homes out and, other community outreach like that to help with people. But it was always difficult for me. For some reason, it was too intense. And we had to actually stop doing it when I was younger because for some reason I just couldn't be there. It wasn't until a few years later that we found out, actually through therapists and things like that, that I'm an empath. So I feel emotions strongly, usually from other people, and mine were usually on the sadder, darker side. So it's just hard to be around sadness or anything like that. But it was still something I was interested in doing. But I couldn't really find the reason to. I did all of kind of the required work that we need to do through school. The required hours to graduate, things like that, but nothing really ever stuck with me. It wasn't till Clexicon, when Dom had started putting out her videos for Start the Wave, that I started to feel spark again, feel like there was something different this time hearing about it. And I knew if I went and looked into it again, things were going to be different this time. So I had started to look into everything. And that's when the forest fires started happening in California. So all I could see on, every social media everywhere was about all the animals that were displaced, all the issues that were happening there, and I knew that I had to get involved. And that's when Kat put out the call for us to go for orientation at the animal shelters. And luckily enough, it was close enough for me to decide this was definitely the call, this is what I needed to do. And it was also terrifying to do, because on top of, that being kind of my first take to get back into volunteering, it was both also my first Earper experience overall, and the first time that I was making myself go to an event by myself where I knew no one. So absolutely terrifying, but it was the best decision to do. I got involved, and I just knew that's where I was supposed to be, and I haven't looked back, because it's just a spark that you feel inside that you didn't know you were missing, and you meet the most amazing people while you're at it. So I can't thank Dom and Kat and the Earpers enough.
Can I just quickly add, Haley is an example of exactly why we do this, because every time we have something, she's like, can I help? Can I help? And I just see the light in her eyes when she talks about it, and I see the LA Earpers, and there's a little competition that we're between Bay Area, but we're pretty close. But that community to me is that's how I know that we're successful, because Haley is here now.
It's so nice to see all of your faces in person, so thanks for that. I think for me, volunteering, what inspires me to volunteer is really about an act of choice. And my friend Sandra, who's also my business partner, is backstage, and she sent me this quote a couple of months ago that said, volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. We vote every couple of years in elections, but when you volunteer, you vote every day about the kind of community that you want to live in. And so for me, what inspires me to volunteer, especially in this world in which we find ourselves right now, is that act of choice and choosing what I want to put my time to, what I want to put my love into, and really kind of being present for something that I really believe in. So, democracy.
Kristen, I don't know if anyone can hear me. Kristen, you're the origin of Earp-a-Forward. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of Earp-a-Forward and Earp community and how it came to be?
Yeah, for sure. So how it actually came to be is really similar to how Haley got involved with Earp community. I was in college and super isolated. Was still super shy and awkward. Didn't really grow out of that at all. So I battled social anxiety as well, but I really wanted to make connections, and I wanted to meet people. So I did something that took me way out of my comfort zone, and I took part in a leadership camp, and I was super panicked about it, panicked about the unknown, but I took this chance to take a step forward in my life, and it led to so much more. So much, it's crazy. I learned about and joined a community service organization called Alpha Phi Omega, and I got out there and met people, made connections, volunteered, made a difference, and I felt like I belonged. I probably should have prefaced that Alpha Phi Omega is a community service organization. And later I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to create a project, and that project was a pay-it-forward student organization at my college. We did small little projects, like handing out compliment cards, and it was really nice to connect with people through that and make a difference on a smaller scale. And this pretty much served as the foundation for Earp-a-Forward. So in 2016, I started watching Winona Earp, and I saw there was so much kindness in the fandom. It's such a unique community. I know you guys all know that. Everyone involved with the show is so kind and generous. People do giveaways, they ship swag all over the world where people can't access comic books. People will send them from the US to South America. It's super crazy. And I realized this was the perfect community for a large scale pay it forward organization, bigger than what I did in college. And so that's when I decided to do an Earp-a-Forward organization. And I saw this culture of kindness with so much opportunity to put in action. I really felt like this is the group of people that could change the world. And after helping a few people with project ideas, I realized to actually kind of make my dream come true, I couldn't do it by myself. I needed other people. So I created this group called the Kindness Warriors with similar ideals and who wanted to help create projects, spread kindness, and this is how I met Sarah. Her energy and enthusiasm has provided the momentum to help actualize the service meetup of Earp-a-Forward, and that's how we started Earp community in 2018 of June.
Yeah, which is crazy because now we're here and just 1 year later. That's nuts. So before I give my answer, I said this last time too, I just want to take a second. I don't think people appreciate like the tenacity and perseverance it takes to create and sustain something like Earp-a-palooza. I just wanted to also give kind of a shout out to Kristen because she was doing this before I even joined. But for me, one of the dumbest decisions I made, which was to join Twitter to follow politics, led to one of the best decisions I made. Because when I found the Earp community, I was in a tough place. I'd had a lot of like professional setbacks and some stuff going on in my life, and I was still in that space where my self-worth and my identity was too wrapped up in my career, and so all of these kind of disappointments that I was facing just really just ran me down, and like I already kind of have like kind of tenuous relationship with self-confidence, so like that was just depleted. And then I took a really risky decision, and I wrote something about Winona Earp, and I put it out into the fandom, and Earpers saw it, and they gave me all of this encouragement. Emily saw it, and she gave me encouragement. And so I kept doing it, and Earpers kept responding to the things that I wrote and helped me kind of rebuild my confidence. It was also around the time that Dawn was doing the podcast where she talks about getting her role in Winona Earp, and Nicole's storyline about her own personal professional setbacks were happening, and it kind of gave me this little nudge to keep going. And so I was just feeling all of this gratitude because it literally rebuilt the sort of self-confidence that I needed to keep fighting for myself. It was the closest I've come to kind of just giving up on myself and just kind of not fighting anymore. And that just pushed me to keep doing it. But I didn't want it to be on Twitter because Twitter is overwhelming, and I wanted it to be more personal. And so when Kristen put out the call for Kindness Warriors, it's like, that is it. That's where I'm going to go, and that's where we're going to figure it out. And we both kind of had this idea for like a service meetup to kind of focus all of this energy and passion and kindness that Earpers have into something that can affect outside of our community. We're really great about taking care of each other, but we wanted to kind of move that beyond just our little tribe, so to speak. And so we started talking about what that might look like, and we planned it, and then we sent it out, and Earpers responded like they do, and here we are.
Sweet. So if I send out an urge to get more donuts, because we have like 100 of them, you guys interested? Excellent, vegan, nut-free.
Yes.
Anyone? I'm trying, the mic's not working. Thank you for the feedback, though.
Just take a bunch and then hoard them over the weekend for like breakfast.
Please do, want some donuts. All right, Kathleen, so you came to Winona Earp via Earp-a-Forward. You want to tell us a little bit about that journey?
Sure. So don't judge. That's just okay.
Sweetie, you know I'm always judging.
So as a good Canadian, I just want to say for the record that I knew about the show because I think I lose my citizenship if I...
What forward or?
What? It's fine. Everything's fine. I did. I came to the show through Earp-a-Forward and through Earp community, primarily from starting with Klexicon, where my business partner and I were presenting our workshop on building inclusive communities. And so we were very aware of Earp-a-Forward and Earp Your Community online, and we were very aware of the community that this group has built and what Kristen and Sarah have really built online with people from all over the world. And so these two were on our radar, and I hadn't watched the show. Sandra did, just for the record.
So she's a better Canadian.
Yes, a much better Canadian. So, but I've made up for it. I think we can all agree. So that was really important. Of all the things that were happening at Klexicon, it was essential for us to hit this panel, which was this panel, the first one, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, the first one.
So we really wanted to hear more about that and meet Earpers. And season 3 wasn't streaming in Canada yet, and I watch content legally because I'm also a creator. So I was like, potato, what? So there are photos of us licking a potato. I didn't understand. Everything's fine. But really, so I think what really drew me to the show was meeting Earpers, and in particular, after Klexicon was over, we were I come down really hard from those events, we were also up against the Way Hot panel.
This
So, 1,200 of you saw that.
I think embryo sort of broke me.
Thank you. Embryo really threw us. That's your fault. You're the one that
That was my fault.
shrieked
I was the one
at the
trying to
accidental use of embryo. But it was great because it was also our first. It was also our first time doing that particular workshop. So it was great. We had a small group. It was really fantastic. But meeting everyone afterwards and really having a chance to talk about what community means to us and the type of community that we want to create is what really drew me into the show. And so then, of course, I started watching, and well, the rest is history. You can follow my Twitter thread about how I have fallen deep and hard into the fandom and take it very seriously to the point where on my mom's birthday, 70th birthday, my dad asked me, he just looks at me very earnestly and says, "What's an Earper?" Okay, Daddy, how much time do you have? 45 minutes later, after basically a summary of the entire thing and start the wave and community building, he was like, "Amazing, do you want dessert?" So that's how I came to the show, and now am obsessive about it. I work in municipal government and use examples of Earping it forward all the time. We had a public budgeting meeting, and I was like, "Can we talk about paying it forward?" So thank you for bringing me here. Literally. Thank you.
So Kathleen and Haley, you both volunteer outside of the Earpdom. Can you kind of talk about how the volunteering differs between the Earp Your Community events and actual volunteering outside the Earpdom?
Should I go first? Okay. Well, I mean, to start off, have you guys met each other? You're kind of a different group than most. I actually work for a Christian private educational institution, and volunteering is kind of like a core part of their DNA. But there's such a different feel to their events. You know, volunteering, the main part of it is it's voluntary. It's not required ever in someone's life. But the way it is at theirs, it always feels a bit stagnant. Like, while volunteering isn't required, they're kind of feeling like they need to be there because that's where they work, or that's kind of being pushed towards them. If you go to an Earper event, yeah, you don't get that feeling. Everyone is there, everyone's having an amazing time, and a lot of the time things are not going to plan, ever. I have so many examples.
You mean like hitting somebody in the head with a loaf of bread?
That wasn't me.
Oops.
Yeah, such as that, when we decide to go work at a food bank in LA and we're sorting bread and decide it'd be a really great idea to play football while doing so. Because it was going to get so much more fun and totally safe to do. And we're not the only group there, by the way. There's tons of other people coming on that day to food bank, and they just see us and think we're crazy as we're just throwing loaves of bread at each other to like wherever we need to sort it. And some Earper, not me, I swear, my aim's good, decided to hit the supervisor in the head. There's probably a picture in that slideshow of me cringing when I saw that happen, waiting for us to get kicked out. But luckily, he was fine with it. He was cool, and he actually came up afterwards and told us that our group, while not doing it the most normal way, had actually sorted the most that they've ever seen in that time period while having an amazing time doing it as well. So volunteering with us is a bit different, but you're gonna have fun while doing so.
And just, to make sure it's not just the LA Earpers, it's an Earper thing, because we did a food bank, and I think we sorted the most grapefruit, so much citrus.
She says we're not competitive in the least.
Not at all. But I just meant that it's an Earper thing.
Yeah.
When Earpers go and do something, it's like bigger and better. We've had I've worked with an organization multiple times, and they remember us. Like a year later, the leader of the last event we did with them remembered who we were, and they were talking about us, and he did promise to watch the show.
I think for me, the biggest difference that I notice is that when you are volunteering at an Earper event or with other Earpers, you already know that you have this thing in common. And I think a lot of us come to this community or stay in this community because we see ourselves represented in a variety of ways, both in the show and in the fandom. And so for me, I have a big personality, but my factory settings are kind of shy. And so volunteering in the Earper community and with the fandom, you know that there are like-minded people there before you even get there. And so if it takes you a while to warm up, or if you don't know anyone, you know that you're amongst friends with those events. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing. And I think volunteering at the bowling event in Toronto, hometown, represent also the bowling alley, no word of a lie, where I grew up. Like, that's the bowling alley where I learned how to bowl. Although learned how to bowl is probably a loose phrase.
Do you actually know how to bowl?
I didn't bowl.
I didn't get to see that.
I didn't bowl. I was doing things.
Because I know you didn't bowl.
I didn't bowl. It's fine. But it was super great to be home. But I think what I observed there is a willingness not just to make sure that the event is going well, but that folks are doing well. And so I think that that's not always going to be your volunteer experience. I think it could be, but I think we're really concerned to know that you're good and that you're having a good time, and also that it's a rewarding experience.
Can I just add quickly? So I wanted to add to what Kathleen just said, because when I started this with Kristen, to Kristen's credit, she, I think, already saw this as a thing that's empowering to people, but I think in my mind I was more focused on, like, look at all this energy, what can we do with it, what impact can we have? And then, to be honest, we get tagged in a lot of stuff with Start the Wave. And when I kept reading the impact that it has on people and their relationships to the world, I realized that it's not about necessarily what we change, because you can clean a beach and it's going to be, there's going to be trash on it 10 minutes later. It's what it does for the person doing it and the example it sets. And that became, like, really important, that it is about how you feel while you're doing it, and does it make you feel empowered, and does it make you feel more optimistic or whatever? Does it make you want to go and fight for what you love and fight for the world you want? And that was not how I started, but it's definitely the most important thing to me now.
So we talk a lot about community, and we've really built a great community via Twitter, meetups, conventions. How does the community built through volunteering differ?
I'm not ready.
I'm going to paraphrase our friend Geffen, who runs the LA Earpers.
Her name is 38, by the way, because that's
What was the
Ouch!
38.
Even finding a way when she's not here.
I'm going to hear so much from that later. Thank you so much.
So we have these values as Earpers, kindness, inclusion, and I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. This is a way to take it out into the real world. This is a way to actually use all these values that we talk about every day and have it impact the rest of the world. And it feels more tangible and more real than when you're just talking about it, when you're actually living it. And that's when you feel really good. That's when you feel like you can keep going and you can keep fighting. And so for me, it's about not just building our own community, it's about helping to build a better community around us as well. And that's how we do it. We take everything we value and cherish as Earpers, and we start to show the rest of the world what that means. And it's a really empowering feeling.
Thanks. To go off that, I think it's just this core kindness that everyone has inside them, and they might not know it at times that it's there. And it's going out there and realizing that you need to show it to others, because it might be hidden to them. But it's not just helping others, but it's helping them tap into it themselves so they can keep spreading it forward. Because one person can make all the impact they want in their life, but that's only going to do so much. So to build that community with others, to show them that light they have inside, so that they can keep moving it forward, so that they can teach others, so that everyone can become involved in it, is just such an important need. Because I feel like so many times people say good or bad or things like that. Like, it's such high, one or the other. Like, you're good if you volunteer, not maybe if you don't. But it's so wrong. It's about just being a person and that just subconscious desire to help others. It shouldn't be, I went out to volunteer every day this month or something like that. And that made me, an amazing person for doing so. It's about, I went out to do it because that's what we should be doing. And that's all it is to it. We just need to get to the point that it's not good, bad, volunteer, not volunteer, or anything in between. It's just, that's who we are, and we just help each other.
Kathleen? Nope. Okay. So most of us, and I'll speak for myself actually, I have a lot of anxiety. I'm a socially awkward introvert. This is like big panic mode for me, and the bright lights aren't helping. So when my wife gives me feedback, so sorry about this, Steve. But how does participating kind of feelings, the anxiety, maybe depression that we feel?
So yeah, I definitely have like mental health struggles, depression, anxiety, and I've felt incredibly hopeless and alone. And so organizing and participating with this stuff, like we've talked about already, it's helped me fight that hopelessness and that feeling of isolation. You like create a family. And I run the New England Earp-a community group. And I've done a few events, and this is pretty much to tell you guys that like anyone can like organize an event, because it's not like a perfect system, but you can definitely do it. Because just last week, I organized a beach cleanup, and it was the one that Kat retweeted on Twitter. No one but me showed up, so that was awesome. But it's okay. And I wasn't even sure I wanted to go because I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen. But I was like, nah, you can do it. I actually, when I got there and I wasn't feeling like I wanted to get out of the car, I was talking to a friend on the phone, or like messaging, and they really encouraged and supported me, and that friend was actually Kathleen. So I ended up going onto the beach, and I had a fun little surprise on the beach. Like, you wouldn't see this. There was a rose sticking out of the sand, and I was like, it was like this nice, welcoming sight. And then like goofy stuff, like when you do beach cleanups, you find all sorts of things. So I found a dinosaur figurine, and I got a riot out of that. If you go on the Earp Community New England Twitter page, you can see kind of like his little journey on like a cement little thing. It's just, even like being out there alone, you know that you're making a difference. And all these fun moments make it worth it. And that's really what Earp Your Community is all about. You're just having a good time, making a difference. When you're in a group, there's lots of smiles, sometimes laughter, all sorts of stuff. And so it's helped me fight my demons. And I have this motto, which is kindness keeps me going. And it pretty much has. Like, I don't think I'd be here if it wasn't all sorts of people that have helped me with even the smallest things. So I'll just keep fighting, and this has helped a ton.
I'll just say really quickly, I don't have like necessarily a lot of social anxiety. I don't think anymore. I think I used to. But it is really easy for me to start to feel disconnected from the spaces and the communities that I live in, and kind of get into my head. And that's kind of a really lonely way to live your life. I don't like it, but it's just an easy thing that happens to me when I get stressed or when I get, I can't deal with things. And so what volunteering kind of does is it connects me to my community. It grounds me to the place that I live and the people I'm around, and it forces me out of my own head, and that keeps me from kind of feeling isolated and feeling alone. I also would say organizing the events, just like writing, it was really hard for me to transfer some of that confidence that I built about writing into like just who I am. But organizing the events and kind of realizing that people enjoyed going. There's one Bay Area Earper right there with her shirt. Really helped me build confidence just in like, oh, I do have something to offer, and kind of fall back on when I'm feeling a little insecure.
Didn't you get a best friend out of this too?
Yes. One of our volunteers, she has a daughter named Aria, and this is actually my favorite thing about any event. And at ClexaCon, she's at ClexaCon, because every time she sees me, she gets so excited, and she comes up and she like gives me a big hug, and we talk. And
How old is she again? I forgot.
She just turned 4. But you guys don't say anything because the murder trees are here, and I can't, well, there's one right there. Crap. Secret's out.
Called out.
Dang it.
Yeah, I guess for me, when it comes to, anxiety, things like that, my friends would never believe this when I was younger, but I was like the most extroverted kid out there. Talk to anyone, go do anything, had zero issues. But when I got a bit older, it kind of felt like a switch went off. I just started being much more introverted, just staying inside, not really wanting to talk to anyone or do much of anything. And I think it was around 10 that they diagnosed me with pretty severe depression. And then around high school, it was when we started working on it a bit more, but then I got also diagnosed with anxiety. And it's just, I've never really liked being in front of anyone. So, panel right now. Interesting experience right now. You're welcome. Yeah, being in front of people, not my favorite thing in the world. I very much like to just be in the background and help, which is why Geffen, who leads the LA Earpers, finds it hysterical at times to try to call me her co-captain and have me be out there helping her with things. Yeah, no thank you. I'll be a minion and just help out in the background. But starting these events, like I said at the beginning, this is the first Earper event that I ever went to, was going to the orientation. And it was also the very first thing outside of any type of decision that I was going to something by myself where I didn't know anyone, and that was terrifying to go do. But Geffen immediately latched on to me, and we just started talking for everything, found out we went to the same college, graduated the same year, all this stuff, and it was just great. But I started to realize with these events and with the people involved that I could push myself more each time, that as terrifying as it is, this was how I could work on the anxiety, this is how I could work on the depression. So each time, as much as I hate it, I put myself out there a little bit more. I try to become more involved. I have less issues now taking lead if necessary for things, which is also translated over to work, which is great too, because there's a lot of times that I end up having to take lead for things there. But it's just knowing with this community that I have an army behind me of people that are going to watch my back, are going to help me, and are going to be there if me trying to push myself forward doesn't work out that time. And I would not be who I am today without it, and I just know I'm just going to continue to get better as I move on with this too.
I don't know that I can add much that hasn't already been said. I think for me, it really helps with my confidence. I have a lot of privilege and power in my day job, and so I'm very comfortable in that role. But I do deal with anxiety quite a bit. And what was so interesting about the weekend that Kristen shared in terms of her being on the beach, aside from the fact that she sent me the picture of the dino because she knows that I love dinosaurs, hashtag 41 going on 4. It's
Your best friend too?
I'm sorry? Aria could be your best friend.
No, it's cool. It's all good. But what was just in terms of kind of sharing what this community really does do for one another is I had just found out that I didn't get an interview for a job that I really wanted 2 days before that conversation, and I was really in the dumps about it. And so, Kristen and I were going back and forth and messaging about, just kind of needing somebody and having that person on the other end of the phone was so impactful for me. And I think that we don't always realize how helpful those tiny moments are, but they're huge. And it's been such a great, we met in April, right? Yeah. We met in April. And then Kristen was at my house. It was Earper Airbnb up in the Harkwell house at Acon. So I think really, aside from the confidence, it's really just kind of having this really amazing community of people that are there. That's great.
So last question before we get audience questions. Remember, there's lots of good swag to be had. So you all live very busy lives. Why do you choose to volunteer in your free time?
So it's easy to be a cynic, and it's easy to be sort of closed off, but it's better to be an idealist. The problem is that being an idealist is risky because you're putting yourself out there all the time, and you're gonna get, somebody's gonna do something that's gonna leave a mark, that's gonna kind of drain that will, and you're gonna want to protect yourself. So when I go out and volunteer, it recharges my idealist battery. I've been a cynic before, and it's a choice. And it's terrible. It's not I hate living that way. I like to have faith in people. I like to have hope in the future, and not feel like I need to protect my heart as much. But it is risky to put it out there. And so when I go volunteer and I see, especially when I volunteer at the Bayhot folks, because we have such a good time, and there's this, you feel like a small part of something, but it makes you feel so much bigger being that small part. Like it'd be fine if I went out by myself, but going out with this group, I love feeling a part of something bigger, and I just feel recharged. I feel my idealism feeling stronger, and I get a reservoir to sort of draw on so that I can live like the type of person I want to be in the world, and kind of have some protection against all of the hits that I'm going to take because the world is not how I want it. So that's why I choose to do it for myself. And also, I think it changes the culture. Like I said, it's not about the beach that you clean. That's great. It's good to do the work, but it's about feeling like every person that you come in contact or that you set an example for, you literally can change the culture of the world by making people feel that sort of joy of gratitude and that joy of giving back, that they want to fight for it too. So it's really about how you see yourself in the world and how you help other people see themselves.
So for me, it's all about connections. I'm actually I come off as a super introvert. I'm super shy, but I think I was meant to be an extrovert. I'm just stuck in a little bubble because I love people and I want to meet tons of people, but I'm terrified to introduce myself and whatnot. So for me, it really comes down to connections, people, communities, and how I'm connected to them. I actually did 2 cleanups in a row. So last week I did one, and then the week before I did one, and one other person showed up. Clearly my beach cleanups are doing great, but no, they really are. It's a good experience, and really what I'm trying to say is I'm the founder of Earp-a-Forward, and I'm doing these events, and sometimes it's only myself or another person, but really the thing is that what I'm trying to tell you guys is that anyone can really do it. You can have a fun time by yourself or with a group. You're making a difference, and that's huge. And you don't know who you're going to meet. So 2 weeks ago, I volunteered with my friend and a fellow Earper, Lauren, and we got to chatting with this other girl, Megan, who's a student at UNH. I should say the University of New Hampshire, because the acronym's not going to help. And she ended up asking if she can hang out with us and join the two of us as a team. And so by the end of the event, we realized we were all connected because we were all members of Alpha Phi Omega. So it just flashes back to by the beginnings of Earp-a-Forward. But Megan, Lauren and I were a decade apart from Megan, but we all were connected by this same organization. And by some crazy coincidence, because I had totally forgotten Lauren was a part of the organization too, we were all connected in this way. And it was a beautiful moment of nostalgia, and it energized me. Volunteering fuels my sense of purpose. And you really don't know where it will lead. You don't know the people you'll meet, you don't know the impact it will have, but you learn so much about people and you gain new perspective, and you see your community in a totally different way. Just a beautiful way to connect.
Okay, I guess more towards time in mind. I feel like a lot of people can be put off about volunteering because, like you said, busy lives, you sometimes just don't feel like you can fit it in. And they don't feel like maybe if they can even go to one event, they could really be considered a volunteer, which is completely inaccurate. Volunteering, you don't have to worry about if you can do it every week, if you can do it every month. If you can do it once a year, you're a volunteer. So don't let time constraints hold you back. Don't let that stop you from doing it. just because you feel like you can't really call yourself one unless you're doing it all the time. It can just be that one time a year that you decide that you have the time to do it. That makes all the difference. So don't stress yourself out over it either, because that can be such a drawback and something that just stops you from doing something that you're going to actually want to do and remember for the rest of your life.
There's a million reasons why you can't do stuff, but do it anyway. Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Haley was saying, that don't let things stop you because you think you can't. Even if you're not going through an organization, if you're just going to the park and you're going to clean up some trash, do it. It'll make you feel better.
In terms of why I fit it in, I'm a busy gal. Got a couple of jobs.
Cool.
I think just a few. It's fine. It's fine is the word of the day, or my line of the day. But in all sincerity, I can say that everything and all the good things in my life and the most important people in my life have come to me because of volunteer opportunities. My career in municipal government came because of that. My career as a film producer came because of that. My work as a consultant in community building is because of that. And all of those things started as volunteering. And to build on what Haley said, if you don't want to go out, if that's not the way that you want to volunteer, you can seek out opportunities that you can do. Right now I'm doing some volunteer work for Klexicon from my home in my gym jams. And that is a really perfectly fine way to volunteer. And I think that, kind of one of the most important things that I hope everybody takes away is that your value does not depend on your frequency of doing these activities or how strongly or intensely or how many times. It's really about creating and contributing to the types of things that you want and to the type of world that we want to live in. And so that's what I have to say about that.
Beautifully said. So anyone want to dare to ask a question?
What's the first thing we're giving away?
No? Lovely. Would you mind, Jill, can you grab the mic for them?
Which way? Oh, that way.
Thank you so much.
Surprise, you have a job, Jill.
You can always try to speak up too. I can't, I'm sorry, I lost my voice when I was running volunteers. When I was volunteering, running autographs. So I apologize for the lack of my voice.
All right, guys. So when it comes to someone wanting to go out into the community, what advice would you give them for someone who'd want to entice people to maybe want to help out a little bit more?
I had that question on my list. Nicely done.
Are you a spy?
Are you asking, like, you want to bring people to an event that you're creating or just to encourage other people in general?
Mostly in general, yeah. Just to kind of help with their general community.
I think you share your stories. I think the more we tell people about what it means and what it's like to volunteer, you build a norm and you build a sort of expectation that we give back kindness and that we give back compassion. So the more you share your stories, you can always tag us, and we'll help signal boost. But that's the best advice that I can give, is to tell your story and tell what it's meant to you.
Nice. Thank you.
So in your opinion, what is the most meaningful type of service work you've done in the past?
Can you repeat that?
What's the most meaningful type of service work you think does the most for our community?
Good question. What do you perceive as the most meaningful type of service?
Okay. Do you want to go?
I can't think of a little.
I have an answer. So for me, my favorite thing to do is volunteer. There's a Golden Gate Parks group, and I love going out there. We do habitat restoration, we do beach cleanups. But for me personally, it's not about the type. Again, it's not about the type of work that I'm doing. It's about the experience that I'm creating for people. Whether they're people I bring or whether they're people I meet there, it's what am I doing? How am I connecting with them? That's the most meaningful thing, because then they're going to take that away and they're going to want to give that to somebody else. So I don't have a specific type. I just like to really think about what's the experience I'm creating for the people around me.
So I thought of an answer. It's actually double answer for both your questions. One of the great things about volunteering is you can volunteer somewhere on a subject that you're passionate about. So I haven't done it recently. I really want to go back. But in high school, I volunteered for an animal shelter.
You need to do it.
Yes.
Go back.
Yes. I already did the orientation. I just haven't gone. I'm a horrible person. No, I'm just kidding.
Did we just talk about this?
I'm so bad at being self-deprecating. So anyways, pretty much to get people out there is share your story, share your passion. There's gonna be other people that are gonna have that same passion. And we're here to help you brainstorm, whatever. I think it all really comes down like passion and connections. You're sharing what you care about, and then you're reaching out to other people that care about the same thing. So sharing your story and your passion.
And remember, we say we have a win for Winona. Our passion is contagious. Our passion does matter.
Every little bit counts. This will be in the back, Jill. Not that far back, sorry. I'm kidding.
Give your wife a break, my gosh.
Dear Lord, she's doing everything to help
Jeez
right
Louise.
now.
Active contrition, I'm so sorry.
So I'm hearing a lot on the panel about how a few of you have, various, mental issues, things like that. How do you get past those bad days and reach out and still help?
Oh, God, that's a good question.
You take the leap. You just decide that this is what you need to do in your life. It's terrifying, and I know I'm not gonna lie because I do it every day when I do these types of events. But there's just something that's telling you, as scary as it is, it's worth it. So it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but there's going to be some point for you where it's going to have a trigger that you're just going to feel that this is the day that you have to make that chance, and it's going to be worth it. And just know, maybe you don't know anyone there, but maybe you do, or it could be friends, family outside. There's always going to be people to back you. So as scary as it is, you're always going to have someone. And I mean, hey, like I said, contact us if you're really wanting to do it, or maybe you just need to talk it out with someone first. Please get in contact with us, and we'll be more than happy to talk with you and help you, just get that little bit of extra courage that you need to do it.
I'll give a quick story that relates to that. One of the events I did, the food bank event, I was the day after I'd gotten some very frustrating work news, and I did not want to be there at all. I did not want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I didn't want to be responsible for people. I was just in a really bad mood. But I went partly because I was organizing it, so I had to be there. It was really hard. But then I got out, and the Earpers were there, and we started sorting fruits, and we started laughing. We started licking grapefruits.
I really hope you
Not
didn't
really
do
licking
that.
the grapefruits.
Okay, good.
There's a picture somewhere. But my mood changed for the rest of the week. Like, that news from work stopped mattering to me. And so, what I do to get past it, because there's still days where I don't want to get up early and be the first one there or whatever to drive to San Francisco, I just remember that. I remember, as much as I didn't want to be there, it changed the perspective of my week the rest of the week, and I was better at work, I was better with the people in my life. So I just try to remind myself of what it was like, and it helps me kind of push past any kind of issues that I'm having that day.
I think two things that I would offer, and one, it took me 40 years to get to this point.
Did you just reveal your age?
I said it already.
Double checking, I'm sorry.
I'm 41. It's legit. I think I'm 14. I'm 41 going on 14. That is definitely true. I would say genuinely that it took me a really long time to come to the place of being comfortable to say that I need help. And I think particularly when you are someone who likes to do good, and when you are someone who likes to do good work, that was really challenging for me. And it's been really it's been really helpful and eye-opening for me to be able to put up my hand, and even like just even reaching out to somebody, like reaching out to Kristen and saying, I'm having a rough go. And sometimes it's actually easier to do that with people that are new in your life because you don't feel the same sense of history. So I encourage you, if that's something that if you feel comfortable doing, to kind of say, I need some help today. And Earpers are so good at this, right? Like the Earper support hashtag, even this morning, I saw somebody reaching out, they're like, I'm having a rough go. It's like, find me, high five, fist bump, hug, whatever you're comfortable with, I'm here. And the other thing I think totally slipped my mind, small acts of service. The other thing that I was gonna say is small acts of service. And I think when I am feeling overwhelmed, I find that my mood can be changed very quickly by kind of making myself go out and do something. But even the smallest things, I try to say hi to people on the street and I try to smile. I live in Toronto. It's a busy place. People look at, like, eventually people are like, okay, cool, enough. But Sandra can attest.
I'm an introvert. I can't do that.
But and you don't have to, but I think small acts of service for me go a long way to helping even just kind of start the engine in pulling myself out of a rough day, even if it's smiling at myself. And I think that that's one of the hardest things. I recently moved my vision board into my bathroom because my bathroom has always, like for 40 years, my bathroom was a war zone, right? It's like, I get up, I look in the mirror, I see the things that I don't like first, and that's where I started my day, every day. So I moved my vision board into my bathroom last year, and I put all sorts of positive things on it. Don't even care, you don't like it, don't go into my bathroom, it's cool. But now I try to start with those small things and try to smile at myself, and those little acts of service have really changed my trajectory. So I offer that.
We're running a little over. Is that okay if we ask one more question? Thank you.
Yeah.
One more question? Sarah, is that okay with you?
Jackie?
Jackie. No one's here, we can go.
All right. No, please ask a question.
You can hear me. I don't need the mic. I can be loud.
You're definitely louder than I am.
All right. So I was just wondering, like, when you do your things that you do, like, how do you decide where you're going to go? Like, do you just, I work with this organization, I know they need lots of help. You walk by a dirty beach man, that's dirty, let's go clean it. Like, how do you decide, like, when you do these, like, group things?
So yeah, for me, and this kind of goes back to like the busy lives question, it helps me to kind of pick like a day. So in September, there was an International Coastal Cleanup Day. And that way I had some time to like plan the event, pick out an organization that was doing cleanups. And it's a similar thing like Martin Luther King Day. There's gonna be so many things going on. So just looking for organizations in your area and getting a feel for those and seeing if any like days of service are happening, like MLK Day or International Coastal Cleanup Day. It's like researching and finding little things. There's organizations that would absolutely love your help.
I would also just add, it depends upon whether you're volunteering for yourself or volunteering for a group. So for me, I always start with what will work with the group, because most of my stuff is group stuff, which limits it a little bit, but so I start there. If it's just for me, I think about what I'm passionate about, and then I look, there's like volunteer match, there's the 1,000 Points of Light, and I'll start to search for organizations that have stuff that match my interest. But once you start to make connections, and you start to say, oh, there's an organization, let me see what they have available. And so I kind of start with just a random internet search or database search, and then we'll just kind of grow it from there.
One more question?
No, you guys.
I don't think you guys.
So sorry, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you guys so much.
Woo!